Thank you, producer Craig. Hey, welcome to Remember That Guy, the podcast where we mine our memories for, peripheral players of past and present. My name is James Fulweiler, and I am pleased as always to bring you Remember That Guy on this beautiful Sunday. With me is my co-host, Justin Diaz.
How we doing?
And we have our increasingly permanent, very special guest, Xavier Perez, on the line as well, joining us today. Hello, Xavier.
Hello, James. Hello, Diaz.
So, guys, to kick it off with making memories this week, I got two quick ones. One is from we're going to talk NBA and WNBA. I'll go ahead and actually just start with the WNBA because just moments ago we are recording this Sunday, the 17th. Candace Parker and Courtney Vandersloot just led the Chicago Sky to their first ever WNBA championship. Candace Parker, Chicago, hometown. This is her first season ever away from the Sparks, and I will admit, while I did think that Chicago was scary at the start of the season with Vandersloot and Parker, I would not have necessarily pegged them for winning the finals. But it's a really phenomenal story. Even LeBron took 2 years when he came back to Cleveland. For her to come back in one season and do that as really, along with Courtney Vandersloot, who is also just incredible. As the centerpiece. Kudos to the Chicago Sky. I'm glad that it wasn't Phoenix after they beat the Aces. The other one, this being just after the most recent Indigenous Peoples Day, the day before, after an NBA preseason game between the Spurs and the Orlando Magic, Greg Popovich was asked during the postgame about Columbus Day by the reporter. And he had some words, and I won't go too into them, but to paraphrase at one point, he made what I think is an excellent point, which is to anyone saying that trying to erase, quote unquote, Christopher Columbus from history is discriminatory towards Italians. Well, that's like saying that trying to point out how bad Hitler is discriminatory to Germans. And he did use that exact comparison, and I really appreciate Greg Popovich for being someone that just never minces words. You need people like that in a league that has as much sway over people's lives and cultural intake as it does. So those are the two. I'm going to say Candace Parker and Greg Popovich are making memories for me right now. Diaz, who's filling your memory holes?
So, not all memories are good. In fact, I think as sports fans, we like to look back on the crazy times that stand out even more than the wins sometimes. And right now, I just need to say, for the record, in perpetuity, for all history, what the fuck, Ben Simmons? This is the craziest thing. It gets crazier every day. It gets crazier every minute. It's just insane to me.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing I want to say to this, because I agree with you. It's absolutely bananas. The Markelle Fultz thing was maybe the weirdest thing to ever happen to a number one overall pick in history. Like, that was...
This guy how to shoot.
It was just incredibly bizarre. And it felt like at the time, the balm for you all, for you Sixers fans, was, hey, at least the other number one overall Ben Simmons pick worked out. And now that has become the only story that I think rivals the Markelle Fultz story for just bizarre trajectories of number one overall picks. It's really something.
Kwame is his own thing, and you could do like a whole psychological study of how being selected by the GOAT and then being, torn down in front of your teammates by the GOAT on a daily basis probably had something to do with Kwame not developing. But just the thing that kills me about Ben is I've never heard an athlete complain that his team was too good. And that's precisely what the Ben Simmons camp is saying now is, we were too good, too quick. And he never had the chance to learn, and he never had the chance to fail. And it's if you talk to any Philadelphia fan or anybody that's coached Ben Simmons in Philadelphia, whether it's Brett or whether it's Doc, it's no, dude, I've wanted nothing more than to see you suck at shooting jump shots. I've wanted to see that for the past 5 years. Please shoot them and please be bad at them, because that's how you get better. And it's just, there's a small part of me that doesn't want to see him play for us, but like I need to see how he's treated by the fans at the home opener next Friday against the Nets if he does actually play in
I
it. So
I posed this question to the fantasy basketball chat I'm in. Is there ever an instance where a member of the home team is going to be booed as viciously as he is going to be booed by his own, nominal fans? I cannot think of one off the top of my head of a like star, a multiple time all-star who's just going to get maybe Eric Lindros, honestly, if you want to stay in Philadelphia, maybe Eric Lindros. And maybe it's just
I can
Possibly.
think of one. I
Yeah.
can think of one. So when A-Rod came back from his year-long suspension,
true.
Oh, that's
Yankees
valid.
fans booed the hell out of him.
That's valid.
Until the Red Sox hit him multiple times, and then started cheering him again because we hate the Red Sox more than we hate drug cheats.
That game, I loved that game, his first game in Boston after he came back because it was just so heated all around and like he got thrown at and then Girardi gets ejected for standing up for him and then he goes on to hit a home run in that same game. Like regardless of whatever you think of Alex Rodriguez, I just love the
drama.
idea of you threw at me, I'm gonna take you yard now. Like
Exactly. It's good narrative. Like it's good narrative structure. I remember from when he returned from his first suspension, it was a game at the Orioles, and just these dudes had $5 styrofoam hand syringes that you could get outside the stadium that said Aroyd. They sold like 500 of those that night, and they were pretty much all in the bleachers. They killed us. They absolutely annihilated us that night. Like it was a brutal loss. But man, there was a moment before that game where it was just a sea of foam syringes, and good gracious, if that wasn't very amusing to high school James.
Yeah. But anyway, to wrap up, yes, Ben Simmons is traumatizing me on a daily basis, but it will be memorable and I will remember it. So Ben Simmons, you piece of shit, get your shit together. You're making memories for me.
That's straight from the Diaz's mouth. Well, Xavier, do you have memories, good or bad, for us? Now I'm interested to see.
I'll bring a good one in. Shout out to Yoros Karlaftis, otherwise known as George, the star defensive end for Purdue, who was a one-man wrecking ball last night, ending Iowa's dream season. 10 pressures by himself, the most anyone has ever put against that Iowa offensive line as far back as they have, as Pro Football Focus has stats.
Those are some corn-fed country boys. That's a serious offensive line.
He made Spencer Petrus's life hell, and I love that. We just have a Greek guy who grew up playing water polo for the Greek national water polo team.
He's
Is
the
now the most
water
dominant
polo guy.
He's the water polo guy.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for that, Xavier. I really appreciate. I like that. I like that it has been, just as you move towards like this better conditioning and like making people the best bodies, it feels like there are more of those stories of people moving from one sport to the other, because eventually, like, if you're just I don't love using this language because we are talking about human beings, but I'm going to if you were just a strong physical specimen and just like a perfect athletic person, there's just a lot of shit that you can do in sports right now. Again, not to dehumanize them. They are people. And some of them are guys. And that's my attempt to segue. And we're going to go ahead and move on to our three guys this week. Either of you guys feeling frisky? Are you guys feisty? Want to start?
I will kick us off.
All right.
So, as soon as the theme for this week, which was those guys, I should say, who are best known for their contributions on the international stage, my mind couldn't help but immediately go to one of the greatest upsets in Olympic basketball history. The first team to ever beat the United States men's basketball team while they were employing professional basketball players in the NBA was in fact a subsidiary of the USA, smaller part of it, that La Isla del Encanto, Puerto Rico, beating USA 92-73, and led by the only NBA player on that team, Carlos Arroyo. Carlos Arroyo
Ooh,
is my guy.
Carlos Arroyo. Fuck, that's good. All right. Yes,
That is really
I'm
good.
buckled up. Let's go. Carlos Arroyo.
So, Carlos Arroyo, born in Fajardo, Puerto Rico, played collegiately for Florida International from 97 to 2001. Interestingly enough, though, his professional career started before that. As a 17-year-old, he played for Corduros de Fajardo in the Puerto Rican Basketball League, which is actually one of the better leagues outside of the NBA in the world.
Nice. Question.
So,
Is that like,
yes.
is this an instance of, again, not to try and throw any disparaging remarks, is this an instance of like a birth certificate that said he was 18 or older, or were like 17-year-olds able to play in the professional league at this time there?
Oh, no, he was able to play. It was
Okay,
like fully
awesome.
above
That's
board. And I'm not sure exactly how it worked with the NCAA, but like, who really knows the NCAA's rules? They kind of just
Yeah, it's
of
Calvin
do their
Ball.
own thing. Exactly. The rules are made up. The points don't matter. All that good stuff. But Carlos Arroyo, so played his 4 years for Florida International. Starts his career with the Toronto Raptors. Don't need to talk too much about his NBA career. I'll get to it later, actually. There's a very interesting nugget about his NBA career a little later. But, just keeping with the theme, the reason why I picked Carlos Arroyo was that 2004 victory over USA. And it's very interesting because, obviously, Puerto Rico and USA play each other in exhibitions a good amount. USA absolutely slaughtered Puerto Rico about 3 weeks earlier. But I was reading about the game, and it was almost by design that Puerto Rico got slaughtered in that game. So they whipped out a zone defense in the first 5 minutes of it, which really confounded USA. And the coach immediately said, okay, I think we have something here. Let's not do this anymore in this game. Let's keep this tool in our
I
box.
love that.
Let's let ourselves get run
yes.
over, man-to-man defense. Let them think they're so much better. Because that USA team had a rookie LeBron, it had a rookie Carmelo, it had Allen Iverson, it had Tim Duncan.
I was about to say, it's got to
team.
have Timmy for me, yeah.
So, a very loaded team. And in hindsight, everybody says, oh, well, the pieces didn't mesh together, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to hear any of that shit, okay?
No, I hate when people try to make that argument when we're throwing like multiple first team all pro players at it. Like, I'm sorry, you can say that it's schematic and all of that. It's the best players in the world. Like, it's still fun and exciting when they do lose sometimes because the other people that are doing it are also among the 100 or so best in the world, probably. But anytime anyone says that about USA basketball, I'm just come on, man.
Right. It's like we're still talking about like the elite of the elite, whether or not they're a perfect mesh. Like, good basketball players should get together and figure it out. But anyway, one thing that is very interesting is that this victory it did not derail his NBA career because he still was in the league for about 5-6 more years after that. However, in the season prior, he was making his progression. Started with the Raptors, went to the Jazz. He started all 71 games that he played for the Jazz in the 03-04 season, which leads into the 04 Olympics.
Okay.
And many theorize that it was, in fact, the victory and Carlos Arroyo's bravado in popping the Puerto Rico off his jersey soured a lot of people in the NBA to him. So, following season, he only started 16 games for Utah. And then bounces around. He got traded to Detroit. He stuck there for a year. Never started a game in Detroit. Went to Orlando. Only started games in a replacement backup capacity.
And like these aren't, I mean, I guess Orlando's making the finals around then, and Detroit is recently removed from a title core. But like Utah's not making a lot of noise in the mid 2000s. Like it's not like there's, to my knowledge, unless correct me if I'm incorrect, but there's not all stars beating down the door to take those spots.
Oh, exactly. Darren Williams did come in, I think, a little later than that. Darren Williams, one of the quickest falls from grace not in a off-court bad guy perspective, but in a holy shit, you were good at this sport and now you're not perspective. That's a story for another episode. But Carlos Arroyo did make a return to the starting lineup as the starting point guard for the first half of the season of the Big Three in the Miami Heat. The 2010-11 season, before they got Mario Chalmers, it was actually Carlos Arroyo was the starting point guard for those the Big Three Heat teams.
Nice. And he
Incredible.
Yeah, did he stick around at all? Like in a backup once he came up? Was he coming off the bench with like Birdman and them?
He did not. So he actually was in Miami the year before, and then stuck around enough. He was the starting point guard to begin the next season. And at the deadline, he ended up getting shipped to Boston, actually.
Oh,
So,
okay.
shout out Dropkick Murphys. He got shipped up to Boston. That did end his NBA career. He had a gap year between going to Orlando and Miami, where he actually played for Maccabi Tel Aviv in the
Nice.
Israeli League / the Euro League. And he actually thrived there. You could say that is what led to him getting the chance with the Heat, because he led the league in assists, and he was the MVP of the finals in leading Maccabi Tel Aviv to victory in the Israeli Basketball League. So I was able to help relaunch his career. And one last nugget that I can say about Carlos Arroyo is a big thing in Puerto Rico. We love our basketball. We also love our reggaeton. And Carlos Arroyo, in his early playing career, did dabble in music. He recorded some songs, but
Okay.
nothing that really blew up. But in 2020, he blessed us with his hit single, Baila Reggaeton, which featured a popular duo, Zion and Lennox, which is also big on the island. Became an
Okay.
international hit, and to the extent that doing my research, I read articles about Carlos Arroyo ascending to the top of the reggaeton world. He's considered one of the top reggaeton artists in the world now.
Oh my
Um,
goodness. That adds enormous points.
So I just want to go through his list of singles. So the first batch from 09 to 2011 is when he was still playing, not able to fully focus on it, but we have Oculto Secreto, Se Va Conmigo, Hablemos en la Luna, Imaginarme, Estamos Ready. He drops all these from 09 to 11. Then he takes his 9-year break to come back with Bailamos Reggaeton, and he has since also dropped Aruba and Héroe. So check out Carlos Arroyo on iTunes. You can also check out his basketball highlights on YouTube. But he's a man of many talents. He's a man that led the greatest upset in Olympic basketball history, for my money, at least. And Carlos Arroyo, for awakening the Puerto Rican pride in an 11-year-old boy, you are my guy this week.
That's phenomenal. Literally, like the only thing I could think of that was not a bigger what might have been a bigger upset was just the fact that the U.S. didn't win the gold that time. Like
Right,
the actual
right. Well,
like that's it. It's all that Olympics, and this is like the maybe this isn't David slaying Goliath, but this is David's buddy getting a stone to like hit Goliath on the eye. Doesn't quite take him out, but now David's gears are turning. And David doesn't give enough credit to his buddy. Who is David's buddy in the Bible? There is a guy that's like his buddy, and then I think he kills him later to marry his wife or something like that. There is definitely a moment in the Bible. This is a huge tangent. I'm very sorry, but there is a moment in the Bible where King David, this great guy, does like spy a woman bathing naked, be like, "Yo, she's hot. Real quick, can we send her husband on like a war battle somewhere? A war battle as opposed to other battles." And he gets killed, and then David just comes over and fucks his wife. That's a thing that happens in the Bible. Anyway, sorry.
Sounds like the Bible.
The Bible's full of all kinds of interesting characters when you actually read it.
That is David and Goliath, David. King David, like the Star of David guy.
Right.
Wild.
Right.
Wild.
Yeah, that was Argentina won that year, and that was like
Yes,
their
yes,
golden
they did.
generation
Manu.
because they had Manu, Luis Scola, Andres
Squidward, Luis
Nocioni.
Scola. Have you ever looked at a picture of like bald Luis Scola next to that picture of handsome
Oh my
Squidward?
God.
Because it's quite striking. Very incredibly handsome man, Luis Scola.
Just for a guy that like his like defining thing was like, oh, you got the long hair with the headband, and then at the end he's like, it was
He and
remarkable.
Manu both. He and Manu both just I like what pair of people have aged balded so gracefully. It just seamless. Like we're gonna embrace this and we're gonna fucking rock it. Some great guys all around. But Carlos Arroyo, that's an absolutely phenomenal guy. I love that.
Thank you.
Xavier is the guest. I'm happy to offer you a second go, unless you would like me to tell you about a lovely guy.
I'll go. Mine was my guy was inspired by the sign off from last week because guys don't have to be men.
Guys don't have to be men.
They do not.
My guy is Shawn Johnson.
Okay.
The Olympic
Yes.
gymnast.
Oh, I remember Shawn Johnson.
Yes. Fuck yes.
I remember that guy. The original.
So,
gymnast. Go ahead.
Shawn Johnson, America's sweetheart. For about 4 or 5 years, she was everywhere. You could not turn on the TV without seeing Shawn Johnson. So Shawn Johnson, only slightly older than us, which kind of makes me feel terrible. She was born in January of 1992. She's from Iowa, born in Des Moines. Doing gymnastics at 3, which seems kind of crazy, but apparently that's a pretty standard age to start gymnastics.
That's the thing that's crazy about gymnastics. Like, your parents basically have to make the decision for you to do it. Like, it can be, if you don't know what it is when you're young and don't express it, like, if you come to it at 4 or 5 even, you're never going to be flexible enough to be, like, an elite level gymnast. It's an insane sport.
Well, it's also like, I don't feel as bad to know that she's about our age, because gymnastics is a sport where like your prime is like 15 to 20.
Yeah.
Particularly in women's gymnastics.
Totally. And so she ended up joining a official gymnastics school when she was 6 with this this Chinese coach who had coached China's women's national gymnastics team. She trained under him from the time she was 6 until she turned pro at the age of 15, as Diaz so astutely pointed
As
out.
one does.
That's what they got to do.
She begins her senior career in 2007 at the age of 15. Rookie year, she was unstoppable. So she swept every competition she entered. She won a gold in the all-around at the American Cup in February of that year. She won 4 golds at the Pan American Games in Rio, which was in June. That included the all-around and the team gold. And then in the World Championships in Germany later on that year, she won another 3 golds, including the all-around, the floor exercise, and the team. So 2008 rolls around. She's considered, one of the top gymnasts in the world, and widely expected to compete for the gold at the Olympics. She competes in the U.S. Olympic trials in Philly, qualifies first, gets a spot in all the events. Fortunately, gets to the Olympics. She only ends up getting 1 gold in the balance beam because she loses to her own teammate, Nastia Lukin, in the all-around. And the U.S. lost to China in the team.
Yeah.
It was the first time that the U.S. ever had first and second for the women's gymnastics for the all-around, but kind of feel bad for Nastia Lukin because no one wanted her to win.
I was gonna say I remember the Nastia Lukin chase, and I remember getting very into I had heard, I really like the Olympics, so I had heard about Shawn Johnson coming into this, and there was something very exciting about this person that I didn't know a lot about on the team, kind of like going toe to toe with this, because it was with that safety net of, hey, we've got the top 2. Like, even if the golden child doesn't win, if it's another team member, that's still pretty cool. I was kind of pro Nastia Lukin in this.
If I can interject with an aside about that same team, because this is one of my favorite things I've ever seen.
Oh, please.
So the captain of that gymnastics team was actually Alicia Sacramone. She went to Brown, I believe. And right around the '08 Olympics, there was an amazing video that came out. She was at, I believe, like some frat party at Brown. And, one of the frat guys, as they are wont to do, was flexing his bravado, saying, like, you're not that strong. Like, I'm not that impressed. And she said,
No.
I bet if I threw a right straight, I would knock you out. And the guy said, all right, go for it. No, so he sticks his jaw out. And sure enough, Alicia Sacramone, little 5'2", absolutely rocks this guy's shit, knocks him out cold.
He's such a good guy. Fuck yes.
So the video may or may not still be on the internet. I hope it's still out there somewhere. But Alicia Sacramone, right to the jaw, smashing the patriarchy in a very literal sense. So it was very.
I wonder how
impressive
Brady
to see
Quinn
that.
feels knowing that his wife could kick his ass.
It's that can go both ways. For some, that may be a good thing.
So back to Shawn Johnson. She doesn't do as well in the Olympics as she thought, but she's still America's sweetheart. Everyone still loves her. She ended up going straight to Dancing with the Stars after the Olympics, and she won.
Doesn't that feel like cheating? Doesn't that feel like cheating a little bit? Like Dancing with the Stars, and we're gonna take somebody whose like entire sport is like contorting their body and being in full control of each limb, and like
Here's what I'll
literally
say.
and like with the floor routine, you're literally like.
Oh yeah, I was
cheating
gonna
with
say
it.
I feel like it's fair unless you do floor routine a lot. Like if you do floor routine a lot, yeah, no, you kind of have this. Though to be fair, like when you get an NFL player, like they often do, the dudes have good footwork. Like it,
Right.
Yes, anyone that isn't a professional athlete on Dancing with the Stars should be intimidated by the professional athletes. I bet if we look up the Dancing with the Stars, it's got to be like 80% won by professional athletes.
Athletes, definitely athletes in general, but just like in particular, yeah, like a floor gymnast. It's like taking somebody from a calculus class and being like, hey, like, can you fucking do the Pythagorean theorem and figure out this triangle? Like, yes, obviously I can. Come on.
Was there anyone good that she beat in this X? Were there any particularly good celebrities that she defeated?
I can check. I didn't see anyone like that really seemed super interesting.
No bangers?
No, I don't really see. I didn't see any bangers for that.
That's fine. I mean, we're talking about mid B-list stars in 2008. I don't think that we're gonna get any real heaters there. But okay, so she wins. She wins. Dancing with the Stars. Steve-O! Oh man, that's pretty solid.
Steve, hold on now. Like, I'm sorry, I have the list up right now. Steve-O was on that season. Lawrence Taylor, LT, was on that season.
Wait, Lawrence
LT
Taylor
was
was on that season?
I didn't see that.
Lawrence Taylor was on that season.
Yeah, there he is.
And the only other name I recognize is Lil Kim. Lil Kim
Lil
was on that
Kim?
season.
Oh man, this is Steve-O coming off Jackass 3 heat or 3D. This is Jackass 3D heat right there.
Yes.
Good for you, Steve.
I only saw the last couple weeks, so none of those like famous celebrities made it to
Makes sense.
the last
Lawrence,
8 or 9.
Lawrence Taylor when he's pushing like what 40-something years old.
At that point, yeah. So that
Yeah.
was 2009.
LT is LT, but that's getting up there.
He was 50 at the time. So like
Exactly. Like
as a football player, he's still able to move. He was he made it to
Impressive.
he was the 7th eliminated, so he made it.
That's great. That's a phenomenal showing by Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence
Right
Taylor,
right in the middle. For
yeah,
LT.
Lawrence Taylor. If you hear this out there, I'm proud of you for dancing that well. That's great. So Shawn Johnson danced real good.
Yes, in fact, so 2009, Forbes does a survey to find the most liked athlete in America. Shawn Johnson is number 1. James, you might enjoy who was number 10 on that list. I looked up this survey.
What year?
The number 10 most liked athlete in America in 2009 was Tim Duncan.
I was about to say it's got to be Timmy. It's got to be. He's so lovable. He's just great. I miss
The
Tim
least
Duncan every day. Is there anyone that hates Tim Duncan? Like, you might not love him, but is there anyone that hates Tim Duncan?
I will say there are certain segments of the basketball world, and I don't agree with these people, but they just fucking hate the bank shot because they feel like it's corny. That's the only person I could say. I don't agree with that.
Get good is what I say to those people. Get good and score.
Buckets are buckets.
Fucking go be a walking double-double for 20 years. God, I love Tim Duncan. Question, actually, I feel like I'm remembering, did Shawn Johnson have a cameo in The Secret Life of the American Teenager one season? I feel like she had a walk-on cameo in season 2 during all of this, because my sister was incredibly into, and honestly...
She did. September 2008.
Fuck yeah, because my sister was so into ABC Family at this point, and that continued for a while, even to it becoming Freeform. In case you didn't know that ABC Family is called Freeform now. Yeah, that's Shawn Johnson definitely had it. I like vividly remember this now. That is pretty impressive. There's not a lot of Olympic athletes turning that into even small cameo walk-on roles on fucking like hour-long shows.
She did a lot more television after that. So, unfortunately, she tore her ACL in beginning of 2010 skiing, and it pretty much ended her gymnastics career for the most part. She attempted a comeback and did actually get to compete again in the Pan American Games in the end of 2011. She got a gold for the team and a silver on the uneven bars. Flared up again, knee injury flared up again, had to retire 2012, age of 20. Then she competed on Dancing with the Stars again. Dancing with the Stars All-Stars edition.
Okay, I was going to say, this has to be some kind of, like, I'm not allowing you to just come back and wreck shop again if you've already done that once. But okay, that's your Jeopardy Tournament of Champions. That's fine.
She lost in the finale of Dancing with the Stars All-Stars to the person that she beat in the finale of her previous season.
Oh my god! This is the best rivalry of her career. Wait, so sorry, I'm sorry. I need to know who is that?
So Melissa Rycroft, former Dallas Cowboys cheerleader, had finished as a finalist.
Again, with the roles that are basically professional dancing, and again, cheerleaders are incredible athletes. This is not me trying to downplay that. This is me trying to point out, we're basically saying that you have to be an Olympic level gymnast or a professional cheerleading athlete to have a shot at Dancing with the Stars.
Well, because this was All-Stars, it had all of the good people on it. Emmett Smith was on this season. Emmett Smith had already won the season. Apollo Anton Ono had also won previously. Elio Castroneves. It was an interesting season. But after this, she has a bunch of other television appearances. She was on The Celebrity Apprentice. Was part of a show called The Adventure Capitalists. She was on The Challenge, which is one of Caitlin's favorite TV shows. And she was on Family Feud. But for the most part, she focuses now. She has a YouTube channel called it's called The East Family. So she married an ex-NFL long snapper, Andrew East. And so their family, her, Andrew, and their 2 small children, they have this family YouTube channel. It's pretty well. They have over 1 million subscribers. But it's wholesome family content. Their most watched video they have is a short video that's called The Cutest Daddy-Daughter Date, which is just a minute of husband holding their daughter.
That's precious.
Yeah, I mean, this is what
just to make sure when we say wholesome family, we're saying like good wholesome family and not we're secretly harboring a lot of terrible prejudices wholesome family, right?
No,
she seems chill. She seems good and chill, but I just want to confirm.
They have a Little House on the Prairie, but what
she led the Pledge of Allegiance at the Democratic National Convention in 2008.
That's fine. That's pretty okay.
But
We'll
yeah,
take
Steve-
people that like at least go with the party that isn't fascists.
but I did
Fascism
enjoy their
light.
most recent video is called "Asking My Wife Juicy Questions Guys Are Too Afraid to Ask." Rated PG.
Those two terms seem contradictory.
I'm stifling like laughter that would blow out the ears of anyone listening to this. Like I'm trying so hard not to cackle at that right now. Goodness gracious me.
I'm trying to think what even an example of like a juicy PG question would be. Like,
has anyone ever
got
kissed your neck?
What's the hardest you ever had your hand held?
Who was the first hand that you held? I think that's really what it is. Like we need to go back to who was that middle school boyfriend that first grabbed your sweaty palm?
I have a good one from the video. They
Oh,
ask you where you
please.
want to go to dinner, and you say, "I don't care." Is that actually true?
Ooh, okay. All right.
That is a great
Actually,
question.
you know what? Yeah, I don't hate that. I kind of apologize for playing fun of them because that's not a worthless question. God, what a great family.
I was very happy when I found this YouTube channel. I enjoy that this is what they do now.
Yeah, I am happy to plug this YouTube channel one more time. Give us that that URL.
The East Family.
The East Family. Hell yeah. Go see Shawn Johnson continue to be awesome after retiring at the age of 20 and then just going on. That's such a it's so cool to see someone just go on the reality show circuit basically and just be good at reality TV.
I love where my brain immediately goes, okay, we have the East Family, so we need to reject the West Family. What about Kanye? Forget about Kim. We need nice, wholesome content.
The only West we need is Jerry West. The only West we need is Jerry West. We stay there and we stay happy. Yeah.
The logo.
Well,
reject West, embrace East.
Xavier, thank you for Shawn Johnson. That was incredible. And coincidental, because guess what? We are going to stay in the 2008 Olympics for a moment. We're going to take a moment we are going to go to a very specific moment in the 2008 Olympics before cutting back for some exposition. It is August 11th. It is pretty early in the day in Beijing, China, but it is roughly 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and people are crowded around their screens to see the 4x100 freestyle relay. This is the second. I don't know where it falls on like actual events, but this is the second event that everyone in the country is watching because it is the second potential gold medal race for Michael Phelps. And right now we are standing on the block with the anchor of the United States team as Cullen Jones is coming up. There is a man by the name of Jason Lezak standing there on the block across from the absolutely terrifying Frenchman Alain Bernard. And Jason Lezak is about to become an eternal American legend. So I will real quick preface by saying the city of Baltimore has, outside of the Ravens Super Bowls, never been more obsessed with a sporting attempt in my life than they were with Michael Phelps' 8 gold medals. And I understand that he is an American swimmer, and I'm not trying to take away the joy that he brought to everyone across the country for that. Like, we are so glad that he could bring that to everyone. With that being said, Baltimore goes fucking apeshit for Michael Phelps. We love Michael Phelps so much. We love Katie Ledecky so much. They go to the same pool. They trained at the same pool that my family was members of when we were kids. Like, we absolutely love it's at Meadowbrook. Their swim team is the Flying Tomatoes.
What a name.
The Flying Tomatoes at Meadowbrook at the North Baltimore Aquatic Center, which produced Michael Phelps and Katie Ledecky. However, we are going across the country. We're going to go to California, where Jason Lezak, and I'm trying very hard to pronounce that correctly. It is a very Jewish name, Lezak. So it's like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Again, I don't know why I'm referencing the Bible so much today. That's weird. Anyway, Jason Lezak, he is a Jewish gentleman from a very Jewish family. He's in a couple Hall of Fames. One of them is the Southern California Jewish Sports Hall of Fame. If you're wondering if Sandy Koufax was the inaugural member of that, yes, he absolutely was in the inaugural class of that. Of course he was. He's the left hand of God. Later on, he will also, and this is, Jason Lezak, he will become a member of the International Jewish Sports Hall of Fame. So he is in both of those. And that's because he was a really good freestyle swimmer. He messed around with a couple others. He participated in the individual medley a couple times, but for the most part, he was a quite talented freestyle swimmer. And that in particular was a swimming that the United States dominated for years, especially the 4x100. The 4x100 comes into the Olympics in 1960. The U.S. wins every single gold coming into the 2000 Olympics. They have won gold in all of the 4x100 men's relays coming into Jason Lezak's very first Olympics, which is in Athens in 2000. Sorry, Sydney 2000. Athens is 2004. That is the first time that the United States does not get the gold medal in the 4x100 relay. It was the Australian team. I don't know if you remember Ian Thorpe. Again, this might have been something that didn't register with the rest of the world quite as much because he was a rival of Michael Phelps. And so us in Baltimore were like, that damn Ian Thorpe. Who? The Australian Ian Thorpe, the Thorpedo. He's like, who the fuck are you talking about? He's the guy that raced against Michael Phelps. Okay, he was Michael Phelps's first big swimming rival, kind of, or at least that's how NBC used to phrase it. And he leads the Australian team that is again the first country to ever win the gold in this event, other than the United States. And it was a tough loss for the U.S. for USA Swimming. But Jason Lezak was still very young at that point. He was in 2000 only 25, which is pretty close to your prime in swimming. You're maybe starting to go down, but that's still mid prime most of the time. When we come to 2008, everyone except for two guys is 23 or 24. There's one 27-year-old, and then there's Jason Lezak, who by 2008 is 33. He's become the old man then. That's his third Olympics in 2004 in Athens. They fall to bronze. So Jason Lezak is now part of the only two 4x100 meter relay teams, and again, free relay, freestyle specifically, that have not won gold in U.S. history. So it's not going great. I mean, he's still a phenomenal swimmer. And the USA Swimming 2004 has a much better year. That is Michael Phelps' breakout year. His 6 golds and 2 bronzes. And that's when the big subject of 2008 first starts getting talked about. Because Mark Spitz, who, by the way, is another member of the Southern California Jewish Sports Hall of Fame, along with Jason Lezak and Sandy Koufax.
Spitz has to be a top 5 mustache guy in sports history, right? He's a top 5 mustache guy.
I want to say top 10 before I think about it more, and I think you could easily place in the top 5. But I can say, without giving it any further thought, he immediately is top 10, and he'd probably climb his way up there. I'd have to say, I think Raleigh Fingers is the waxed one, right? That's got to
win. Yeah. With the I mean,
for someone to do that after the 1800s has to win.
Right. I mean,
I would also say, remember when Mike Fears basically had a question mark shaved into his face?
Yes.
That was nuts. He did that, and then he broke the Astros sign stealing scandal, and I'm starting to think that he did that just so we would all forget that he shaved a question mark into his face at one point. I'm not that guy anymore. I'm the guy that broke the Astros now. See?
Got it. Got to diversify
1920s gangster Mike Fears. See? Anyway, Jason Lezak coming into 2008 is an afterthought on the U.S. team. He's still very productive, but everyone is talking about Michael Phelps because Michael Phelps is going to compete in 8 events, and if he gets gold in all of them, he will have the most gold medals in any Olympics ever for an individual. Again, in Baltimore, this is a huge deal. The Sun, every day, our newspaper, the Baltimore Sun, the cover was just the schedule of all of the not the sports cover, the cover page of the newspaper for a long period of time during which the swimming events were taking place was just the schedule of swimming events so that everyone knew to watch it. We were absolutely ready to lose our minds. He gets his gold in his first competition, and the U.S. team has a really good qualifier. U.S. and France both do it. France is the team coming into this that is looking to dethrone the Americans this time. They're led by Alain Bernard, who is another just master of the freestyle. He had some choice words coming into
he's a shit
this.
talker.
He has some choice words, and I'm going to try and do them in a rough French
A
accent.
mid
We'll see how
talker
that goes.
as they go.
Merde. There's some play that begins with the word merde, and my mom told me about it once while we were speaking about theater, and that's when I learned the word for shit in French, because merde, for those of you that don't know. I'm going to try and do this in an accent. The Americans, we're going to smash them. That's what we came for. I'll start my games in the 4x100 final, confident that my pals will have qualified easily. If the relay goes according to plans, then we'll be on a roll. He's like, they are assuming that they're going to win. And to be fair, this is a stacked French team. You've got Amélie Levaux, who is, during the heats, sets the record for best 100-meter leg. And by the way, another thing that we should mention about the 2008 Olympics, records fall left and right because it's during a very brief time where FINA, which is the Fédération Internationale de, I'm so sorry, I'm trying to pronounce the French word for swimming. It's natation, I think, but FINA is essentially similar to FIFA, the international organizing body for swimming. They allow these Speedo laser suits, LZR, and there are oils on the surface. There's the amount of surface area that it covers. Every record gets broken if you were not following swimming at that time. It is absolutely absurd, and they're being broken by like multiple second margins. It is just the Wild West. This entire Olympics in the swimming aquatic center, that aquatic cube that they had in Beijing. God, the architecture of the Beijing Olympics was so cool. And yeah, so some records were set. So they had Amélie Levaux, they had Fabien Guillot, who had just been part of every single team up to that point that had medaled in this event for France. He wasn't like crazy, but he was just always there for all those teams. Frédéric Bousquet, who was the short track record holder for the 50-meter record from 2008 until 2010. So he has that record during this time. And then Alain Bernard is their anchor. So this is an absolutely stacked French team. You've got Michael Phelps and Garrett Weber-Gale and Cullen Jones, all in 23, 24, all kind of at their come-ups. Michael Phelps is at the peak of his powers. And then coming in 6 years older than the next closest person, which was Frédéric Bousquet at 27, you have 33-year-old Jason Lezak getting ready to participate in the gold medal match. Things happen about the way people expected them to early on. Phelps has a phenomenal leg, but France looks good. France looks really good. Now, the thing is, all the teams look good. The American team coming into the final turn where Jason Lezak's going to anchor this, they are also on world record pace, but they're losing by about a full body length to France. And Alain Bernard gets the jump on Lezak. Lezak comes into the water maybe half a second later. Lezak is to the right of Bernard, so he's talked about this. He understands that the next 26 seconds that we're going to talk about here in this moment is the 26 seconds he will be remembered for the rest of his life. He understands the magnitude of it, and I think it's really cool to hear him talk about it and to hear someone that doesn't hold any bitterness about there being this point that is kind of the point around which public perception of them and public knowledge of who they are revolves. Like that's what Jason Lezak is to people, is this next 26 seconds. And so he recounts it in amazing detail, which I won't get too into, but I do want to just kind of talk about his remembrance of it. He goes down, and because he's on the right, he's breathing to the right. He doesn't see Bernard at all for the first 50 meters to the other edge. He's just totally going on it. He rides a little bit of a wave. He does get a little bit of a wave to it if you see the wake along the line of it. He comes into that turn, and he talks about this just second effort well that he says that he hadn't really ever felt before, but he just on that jump, on that first push off, he's like, I felt so good coming out of that wall that there was just something that kind of turned on and gave me a inventory of fuel that I just didn't know I had to some extent. And now he's got Bernard in his sights. Now he's breathing towards Bernard's lane. He's seeing him the whole way down. And he, even halfway through, even with half of the lap going, he's still a full half body behind Bernard. Even just the last 25 meters where he basically pulls a full 6 feet up to finish with a 26:06, which is, sorry, a U.S. current record for the full 50, which is 46:06. Just an absolute insanely good time for this. And at the end of it, by, I believe, less than a tenth of a second, he delivers the second gold to Michael Phelps for his 8 gold pursuit, which he goes ahead and finishes out within the week. Michael Phelps remains the most decorated Olympian of all time, and even Michael Phelps in interviews he said, like, you know, he understands that second one, Jason Lezak went out and won that race to some extent. It's a team effort, and he was in a good position. Again, he's in world record pace before they go into that, but he went and conquered Alain Bernard, and we don't need to feel bad for Alain Bernard. Alain Bernard goes on to win some gold along in that same Olympics for some individual competitions, and that kind of was Lezak's last big thing. He does make the 2012 Olympics. He appears at the 2012 Olympics at the age of 37, which is pretty great. He does swim in some preliminaries. He does not participate in any of the races. He does get a silver for being on the swim team for it. So he is the only person in history as a male swimmer to get a medal in the same event 4 times. So he's got that. Michael Phelps, of course, goes on and does the same shortly thereafter. But yeah, Jason Lezak, like, very much has that spot in history. And I think a lot of people have seen that race. I just think that it very much falls into the Michael Phelps myth making. And again, I'm not against Michael Phelps myth making, but it's important to know the guys behind it. Yeah, I love Jason Lezak.
I always love watching that video because, like, the commentary of it is what really puts it in perspective. Because, like, even at the turn, they're like, "Oh, maybe he's got a chance. They should still have a chance at the silver here, but no way they're gonna catch him." And then, like, just them slowly realizing, like, "Oh shit!"
Disbelief.
It's so good. The
guy
here
might do
comes
this.
Lezak, unbelievable at the end. He's done it. It's one of the most iconic NBC calls for the Olympics that I can remember.
Yeah, it's like, it's
So good.
absolutely incredible. No, I could not agree more that the whole time it is unbelievable to see. It's one of those pullaways it is hard to understand how someone could be gaining on somebody in that short. It is hard to fathom the amount of force that you have to be generating at that point. It's an absolutely incredible accomplishment. And like, he's still super in swimming. He himself does not compete, but he's been very involved in something called the International Swim League, which is kind of like exactly what it sounds like. There's domestic competitions for it as well, but for the most part, it is just teams that are privately owned for the most part. His being one of them, just competing in meets. His is the top U.S. team right now. They finished 3rd in the world pretty recently. So he's still knows swimming quite well, and I'm sure if we were to record this another year from now, he'll find some other Jewish Hall of Fame to get inducted into. But I'm glad that he and Mark Spitz have that connecting them. I hope they've gotten to meet at that facility at some point. But Jason Lezak is just such an unbelievable race. And kudos to him for helping Michael Phelps become the greatest Olympian of all time. He literally could not have done it without Jason Lezak. So that's my guy.
I love stuff like that because it's like with every single like legend of any sport, really, like there's always I don't want to call Lezak a role player, but like there's those guys that made significant contributions that, like, in hindsight, like LeBron doesn't get a title if Ray Allen doesn't hit the corner 3.
Yeah.
Jordan gets the first title over the Jazz because Steve Kerr hits an 18-footer.
There's
like
guys.
that.
I mean, sure, the 2012 Yankees don't go any further, but like the 2012 Yankees, Raul Ibanez is not a huge part of that team, but Raul Ibanez is the reason that team wins the ALDS. Like, there's always Dillman Young is the reason that the Orioles won the 2014 ALDS. I bet you Dillman Young had 25 at bats that regular season for the Orioles or something like that. It is
Joe Flacco
absolutely,
doesn't get MVP without Jacoby Jones being on that team.
absolutely, like there's nothing wrong with being a role player. You know, there are only so many stars, and again, what I think is incredible about someone like Jason Leshak is kind of the embracing of that. The very much like, hey, I know that people know about this race more than any other one because it was part of this Michael Phelps thing. Like, I know what my life and my recognition is centered around, and that's fine because it was a huge accomplishment. And he recognized, like, that was immense. That was the best competition that he ever like really got to be a part of. And again, these laser suits, they're outlawed from international competition within a year or two. So the records that are being set in these races, the climate and environment of these races is unlike one that has ever existed in competitive swimming otherwise. And that's really something I think about that Olympics, like that being part of, again, this larger Michael Phelps mythos. But hey, Jason Leshak probably would never have been able to swim that 46.06 without a Speedo laser. So shouts to Speedo.
Staying at the forefront of swimming technology.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my guy, and that brings us to our election this week. The judges panel must now convene and decide on who is going to get inducted to the Hall of Guys to join our previous recipients from the unaired and never will be aired pilot episode. We got Damian Miller, and of course from last week we have Nolan Reimold joining the Hall of Guys. But I'll go ahead and say, after talking about all of these, I'll get the conversation started. I'm feeling pretty strongly about Carlos Arroyo. There is something about the fall from grace that this moment triggers that really speaks to me. So I will say early on, while I love Jason Leshak, I feel very passionately about Jason Leshak, Carlos Arroyo did speak to me as a true Hall of Guy inductee.
And being able to resurrect in more ways than one, coming back to be the point guard of the Miami Heat in the LeBron era. And then also ascending to the top of the reggaeton world. So
that's the other thing, like the second life. And again, Shawn Johnson, an incredible second life as well. Even Jason Leshak with the ISL. But you know, you can turn being a gymnast into being famous. I'm not going to say every time, but I've seen that happen more times than I've seen a basketball player become an international reggaeton star. Xavier, any thoughts on?
I like Arroyo too. Like Diaz, I am also biased towards the showing off for Puerto Rico in international competitions.
Absolutely.
I'm very partial to Arroyo, although I do love Jason Leshak a whole lot.
All right. Well, yeah. Again, we love all of the guys that we bring here. We want to make that clear. We love Shawn Johnson. We love Jason Leshak. And they have honorable mentions. Maybe someday we'll revisit. We'll pull together a bunch of the people that we've said no to so far and have a fresh ballot to see if anyone else gets in on a second try. But for now, congratulations, Carlos Arroyo, on your induction into the Hall of Guys on Remember That Guy. If you have any guys that you want to nominate or talk about, please, we have several ways that you can reach out. We do still have our email, rememberingguys@gmail.com, all one word, no punctuation. Then we also now have a Twitter where we're trying to do a guy of the day, as well as just other idiotic sports thoughts that pop into our minds. And that is Remember Guys Pod on Twitter, @Remember Guys Pod. So feel free to check those out and let us know about other guys that you feel strongly about. Anyone else got anything to plug before we head on out?
Nothing else to plug, but I will say for our theme for next week, I want to go with how do I want to phrase this? Aged like a fine wine. So guys that maybe came onto the scene not super notorious, however, going out on top, a late resurgence, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
But my theme and my challenge to you two for next week is aged like a fine wine, guys that went out on top guys that resurrected their careers, anything along that sort of vein.
I like that. I like that. I can definitely work with that. Xavier, got anything else you want to say before we head on out here?
Not today. Just go watch the East Family on YouTube. I'm very much enjoying this right now.
Hey, go get some wholesome quality content from the East Family on YouTube. Go watch some amazing highlights of the Ravens 34-6 win over the Chargers today if you really want to feel great about just some high quality football. And I think with one last thing, if you could please, Diaz, go ahead and give us just one last name.
So here's the guy, the last Sixer to wear number 3 before Allen Iverson, 1994-95 NBA All-Star Game participant and rap artist who co-featured with Shaquille O'Neal, Dana Barros.
Dana Barros. Oh, that's good. That's good.
Really good.
And if I could I just want to tear through some names that were on that album as well because it's fantastic.
Please.
So the album was B-Ball's Best Kept Secret, and it's just a bunch of early 90s basketball players. So Shaq, of course, was on that. Cedric Ceballos, Jason Kidd, J.R. Ryder, Dennis Scott, Gary Payton were all on that album. And then also just make an appearance as an actual rap artist. Warren G was also on that album.
Hey, there you go, Warren G. And there you go, Shaq, for getting a real name.
He did. But yeah, I would highly recommend checking that out. Dana Barros' single was the intro song for the Rice Turkey Sanchez podcast, which is, to me, it's still the pinnacle of podcasting. I don't know if it'll ever be matched, but Dana Barros, there's a guy to go out on.
Well, there you go. Thank you for helping us remember Dave Barros. Thank you for joining us to remember some guys. I'm James, that's Diaz, that's Xavier, and we will talk to you next Sunday.
It's a good thing. This is just a game.